Yo, what's up? Let's make some tracks using video game samples. Video games are such a powerful and unique form of media, a culmination of multiple ideas from a team of developers to create an interactive art piece, a completely unique visual and auditory experience. And one of my favorite aspects of a video game is, of course, the soundtrack. Whether it's the inviting intro jingle of the console, the electrifying character select music, or the ambient sounds that play during my adventure, music in video games have an interesting way of enticing emotion. And if I were to play this sound right here, it's crazy how many people would have an emotional experience just by remembering where they were when they first heard it. And I absolutely love when producers can take those songs we're so familiar with and repurpose it for new listeners, which is what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna take some cool samples from video games and make them into some bangers. So let's get into it. First, beat. This first sample is coming from a pretty old game, an oldie but a goodie. It's the Nightfall music from Shenmue. I absolutely love this sample. It's warm and nostalgic. It makes me want to just doze off into the sunset, and it makes me want to flip this sample into some kind of OG funk-inspired beat. For my track, I looped the first 8 bars of this sample and pitched it down 200 cents. I also layered the sample with a bass line from Boo Bass. Please stop calling it Boob Ass, that's not his name. I added a bandpass EQ and vintage chorus for that subtle chorus effect. Then I routed both the bass and the sample to the same effect chain. I wanted to add more of a Memphis feel to the beat, so I added this dope vocal sample. The track is called Fuck Yo Side by Mr. Doctor. I added a few EQs and a stereo shaper to it. This was such a perfect sample for my track, and it was a sample I found on TrackLib. TrackLib is an online record store designed specifically for sampling, providing you with real songs to sample from all over the world, giving you access to artists like Isaac Hayes, Louis Armstrong, and even Mozart. With an ever-expanding catalog of over 100,000 songs to choose from, TrackLib has dozens of curated sample playlists designed for finding samples in the style of your favorite artist or genres. Some of my favorite playlists while working on this vid were the A$AP Rocky playlist, the Dipset playlist, and even the anime playlist from Bandai Namco. Once you find a sample you like, you can use TrackLib's built-in loop and beatmaker to get a better idea of how you can flip these samples. Sample clearing can be very time-consuming and expensive, but since this song, along with 90% of TrackLib's catalog, is under the C license, I can clear the sample for a fraction of the price compared to normal clearing methods. And it's not just me. Plenty of artists like J. Cole, Lil Wayne, and Brockhampton have taken advantage of TrackLib's incredible service, and you can too. Using my link in the description, you can get a free 30-day subscription and 15 download credits so you can get into crate digging right away. Huge thanks to TrackLib for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to the beat. Next up were the drums. The drums were pretty simple to make. I started off with just the hi-hats. Then I added the kick and the snare. I also made this triangle pattern and added in the 808. Lastly, I added this gritty hi-hat loop and topped off the beat with some transition sounds. And here's the beat. This next sample is coming from a pretty beloved video game, an early 2000s 3D fighting game that's very near and dear to many people. That's right, I'm talking about
Kakuto, Chojin.
Wait, you've never heard of this game? That's okay. This was an early 2000s game that came out on the Xbox, and it turns out this game was actually banned in a few countries for the improper use of a Muslim chant in one of the songs. But that's alright, we're not going to use that song today, we're using a different song. This one is Victoria's Theme. I like this song a lot because it starts off like a Pierre Bourne sample, and then it turns into an early 2000s action movie beat. For my track, I looped the intro of the sample and pitched it down 400 cents. I added an EQ, kickstart for some sidechain, stereo shaper, and reverb. Next, I layered a few synths to give it a unique character, something kind of Yeet inspired. I used GMS and Sour and played this mid-bass melody. I just added an EQ to it just so it doesn't clash with the 808 later. I added the drums next and made sure to add a lot of bounce to them. And of course, a nice booming Spins 808. I also added a kick for a nice touch. Next, I made a synth lead and 3x oscillator. I added a little pitch wobble and added some effects like an EQ, vintage chorus, and reverb. Lastly, I added this laser effects with flex and used it to add some texture. And finally, here are some transition sounds. And here's the beat. Now, you can't talk about sampling from video games without using a Sonic sample. I don't know what it is about the Sonic team, but they just make some of the most jazzy and soulful songs in video games, and I'm not the only one who's realized that. Plenty of other artists have sampled from Sonic before. So I'm going to sample a song that I really like, Living in the City from Sonic R. I just love how groovy this song is, so let's turn this into a colorful and upbeat Jersey Club beat. I'm looping two sections of the song. First is the hook of the song, and then I'm looping the intro. I'm also adding a ton of effects to this sample, starting off with some EQs, a limiter, Vastas to tame some of the harshness, stereo shaper, and reverb. And I'm also adding some more effects to it with automation clips like Origin for a hard lo-fi effect, Gross Beat for a cool gated effect, a tape stop, and another EQ just to pull some of the highs out. Let's add the drums now, keeping it simple with that steady Jersey Club rhythm. I also added this snap. Next, let's add this Jersey Club drum break, this cool gun reload sound, and let's have some fun with the sample and add a sample from Knuckles.
Oh no!
The basses were pretty fun to make. I started off with this nice hover bass with GMS, and I played the root notes of the song. The 808 pretty much does the same thing, but I've got it doing a more Jersey style rhythm. Now all we have to do is arrange, and here's the final beat.